Are we live? Are we live? We are live now, apparently.
I'm gonna check on your website. Just refresh it quickly and make sure.
All right. Should be. Yeah, I see it now. Okay, we are live. So, hello, everybody. Dagmara on this side from Metamorphosis Coaching, obviously. I work as a coach and therapist with different modalities. And one of this modality or approach that we both use in our work, it's the inner child. And today I invited my dear inspirational friend Jadwiga, that also works in similar approaches and also other approaches like New German medicine,
Somatic experience mostly.
somatic experiencing mostly. And yeah, is there anything else you would like to add about yourself?
Welcome, everyone. My name is Jadwiga, as Dagmara said, and it's actually, I always have a bit of trouble at the beginning to introduce myself because for years that I've been studying different modalities and, I discovered and learned different way of working with yourself, with trauma, with other issues. I always kind of couldn't find one specific method that would I could call myself or I would attach to. Like I usually feel like I always I learned so much from each of the method I learned, so I'm kind of like calling I can't call myself that I'm only a therapist or a coach, because what I love to do in my work, I actually join them. It depends of the person I'm working with, because each of us is an individual and we come with different issues. Let's say issues, because I don't like to sometimes call them issues, but we come with different challenges.
Yeah.
And then so that's why I always, based on my knowledge and my intuition mostly and my experience through my own life, I always try to bring and use the knowledge I feel it's the best for this kind of person in this situation. So
yes, yeah. I totally agree. I feel the same. It's hard to label. Is it a coaching? Is it a therapist? What kind of approach? But in general, what we both do, we work with people and with their unique issues and unique features. But today we're going to talk about the inner child and how we both see the inner child approach. As I've noticed when the clients come to me that they have a little bit misleading idea of what the inner child work is. So we want to talk about it today. And maybe I ask you, since you are my guest, how do you understand the work with the inner child? Or how do you...
Yes, it was in 2013 that I actually first heard about this kind of way to, or I don't like to call it method, because for me it's more not really at the moment. Maybe at the beginning I was calling it more that I'm working with my inner child. Now I say that I'm developing a relationship with my inner child, like I'm creating a bond with her. But yeah, it was in 2013 that I first heard about this method, and I got very curious because usually you would get stuck. First that I learned was mostly methods based on the how would you call mental process. So this was like a first method that actually brought me back to my body. I turned my how would you say, my attention inwards, and that was a really beautiful journey that starts in there for me. How do I feel? For me, it's like I said, it's creating a bond with that part of myself, that innocent, happy, creative, spontaneous. Like she holds so many gifts and talents, and by reconnecting with her, I just kind of have a feeling that she's sharing them with me, that basically they come back to life. I have access to those resources again.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said reconnecting, because what I guess what is the base of this work, or the idea of this work or approach, or the creating the bond, is that it comes from the fact that in childhood we are actually, through our conditioning and environment and different situations that happen, what actually happened to us, we disconnected from ourselves, and that this connection happens exactly as you said. It's a mental process, so it happens that we detach from our body and go into our mind, or sometimes we even space out, which we kind of nowhere really, but we definitely not feeling our body. And if we do not feel our body, we also don't know how we feel about what is happening around us. We're not present with the situations that life is bringing to us. We don't know what we want to do in this situation. We don't know our values, and we act from this automatic responses, or this coping mechanisms that we were conditioned to, in a certain way, to adopt in order to survive our childhood.
Yeah.
So to conclude what you said and also reflect on that, it's like the inner child work, it's actually to create a bond with our inner selves, basically.
Yes, because you see, I'm actually really like, after the years, when I look back, I'm just so glad. I feel enormous gratefulness as well inside, that this is this kind of method that I start working with, that this is something that came to me years ago, because that, like I said, instead of only processing the issues in my head, I learned how to go back to my body. I learned how to look inside, to not be afraid, to reconnect, to bring back the connection, not only with that part of my subconscious, but also with my body in general, like myself. So it's a great gift that I'm really grateful that this is this unique way of working I'm familiar with it. Because, and also what I think, there's many ways, or not maybe many, but I've heard, like, I'm not sure if everybody are working the same way with the inner child. It's like you said, there are people who said, I'm working with my inner child, but it's mostly based on visualizations.
Yeah.
I work slightly different. That's how I was also taught to work with my inner child. I visualize myself as a younger self in specific situations. Like, well, basically it mostly comes to me naturally whenever the situation arises. It's like a specific image just pops in. So what I'm doing, I'm actually returning to that scene. I'm going back to that moment to stand behind her, like back her up, comfort her, give her the empathy that she was missing. So I see that's a difference, the way I also heard that some people are saying that yes, I work with our inner child, but it's different the way I'm doing it.
Yes, and I also noticed that, because I had clients before coming and saying, "Oh, I do work with inner child. I meditate every day. I visualize, and it's okay. It's good. It's one part of this work, but the other part, it's to really feel the feelings that are there in us that we disconnected from, that happen in those moments in the childhood, that we felt them. They were maybe too strong. That's why we had to disconnect." But also to then be able to this maybe not discover, but find in ourselves the compassion that maybe we weren't given, or maybe there was lack of it. Yeah. And then when we actually do connect to those feelings that we experience in childhood, then we can only feel the compassion, because as you said, like, doing things mentally, we don't really feel it, and we cannot have compassion for something we don't feel, because yes. Then you say, yeah, I do have compassion, but do you really, if you cannot feel that you felt a lot of sadness in your childhood, or maybe a lot of anger? And from my experience and working with different people, and also I worked myself with other practitioners, it's always like we often not aware we had those feelings. You know,
Yeah.
it kind of seemed from the outside, oh, my childhood was great. You know, I had everything. I had roof over my head. My parents loved me. They worked for me. And it's not obviously to blame our parents that they did something wrong. It's not about that. It's just discovering which moments we got disconnected and what is really underneath, because the fact that we disconnected from those feelings created all the coping mechanisms that now are dysfunctional, that now we procrastinate with things that we really want in life, or we have behaviors that are toxic, or we get into the toxic relationships, or like there is the whole kind of range of things that are happening automatically and we don't know how to help with that. And we think that through visualization or like affirmations only we're gonna change things. But because we have a lot of emotional blockages, those things for some reason they don't change, and we come out of one toxic relationship and then we attract another, because those feelings are still there trapped. So also how I see that, it's to go back, as you said, to give the empathy to the child, to stand behind her, and also to feel in our body physically what we really felt there. So then we can connect, kind of open to those emotions that we maybe don't want to feel right now, because we have the idea it's something uncomfortable. So better have the coping mechanism of spacing out or withdrawal that helped us obviously to survive. However, right now it's causes us to suffer often.
Yes.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yes, it's also a thing, like what I hear a lot is like from most people is that they're afraid basically to go back to their childhood. In a way, it's like you said, they say, my childhood wasn't that bad, it was really good, my parents did the best. Of course they did their best and they loved you the way they could, but still you were hurt. And that hurt, that pain needs to be acknowledged, you know. So and it's kind of like, for me, it's a huge denial. It is a denial mechanism, you know. It's also it's a mechanism where we what we do is idolize the parents.
Yeah, totally.
Because I think a healthy from my also journey, what I noticed that I developed a healthy, like a middle approach. Like I see my parents as humans now. Like I understand that they were allowed to make mistakes, but I also had to look after myself. I went back, not like you said, to judge them, not to criticize them, you know, not to bring all this stuff back and just sit there and maybe start whining and stay there in this kind of emotional state and just, you know, carry that with me all my life. No, went there. I like to call it like it's like a basement. I went to the basement to clear it, to create healthy fundaments, you know, to make a good like I said, a good base for my entire life, for the rest of my life, for my relationship, for my family, for my career, for everything else. So in that case, I actually felt that it's something that helped me tremendously.
Yes, I agree.
You know, it created, like I said, a really healthy fundaments for the other areas in my life.
Yes, totally. And I totally agree. It was also my journey. And this specific work brought a lot of freedom in my life, because I came across the method that was enabled me to actually change things in my life, because coming down from mind into my body gave me a lot of freedom, that I can actually, instead of being stuck and overthink and overanalyze and worry and have a lot of negative thoughts, whatnot, I could actually go to my body and see what's going on there, and then staying with those feelings, acknowledging them, as you said, maybe even for a very short time, and accepting that, okay, now I feel sadness, or now I feel anger. I
think we have to remember that, you know, things progress. The same with therapies, they progress. It's not the same as it used to be years ago. I think some people might still have the image of how the work used to was done, that people were going to therapies and were spending years there, like 10 years, going back and talking and nothing, like doing, only small tiny steps forward. So maybe I can only guess, but I'd say that's what I hear from some clients, from people. They were like discouraged to even try another way, because that's what they know about traditional therapy, But we did progress. The therapies change, and we are going forward also with new things. So I'm really glad, because basically I have a feeling like I gave my life is back.
Yes.
Yeah. To
I
work
feel,
with the child, with the inner child, and also other modalities as well. They were, helping and supporting me, of course. But the inner child was really important part of the work I'm still doing, because I'm still, um, connecting with her. I'm still working on to keep a healthy relationship with her. That she knows that she can depend on me now. She can trust me. She feels safe with me, and yes. And by doing this, I see very fast. I was noticing a lot of changes in the outside. Like, so that was also the, how would I say? So it wasn't just that kind of like a proof. Like it proved me that I did see the change in the outside, in my outside world. Whenever I took the time to do the inner work with the inner child, I straight away, very fast, I could notice changes in the outside and inside of me as well.
Yeah, totally. And for me, outside of the changes, and obviously you change, so the way you project yourself to the outside world is different, and then the outside world is projecting back to you something that is different as well. So that was the one thing. And the other thing, when I think about that work of the inner child, obviously supported with like all the body modalities, like somatic experiencing, for example, it's also like it gave me back like power, like there is something I can really do about this situation. There is something I can discover, like what other mechanism is there, and even the awareness that okay, this is just the mechanism I acted from right now. It already gives you this this power that okay, this is not me, this is just the mechanism, and maybe I can accept it or I can change it, because it's not always easy to say okay, if I know what the mechanism is, I can just flick my fingers and I can change it. Sometimes it doesn't work like that, because the mechanisms, they are very strong and they obviously are ingrained in us. But it gave me this power, that knowing why did I acted in that situation like that, or why things happened to me like that, took me out of this like victimhood, that like things are happening to me and I don't know what to do with them, and it's always this or always that. It gives that leverage that okay, now I can be in charge of what's happening, even by the fact that I'm going to stay with my emotions right now and give myself attention. And the giving of attention is what also changes things in us. Because the reason also why we disconnected in childhood was that there was no attention given to our feelings. Like there would be attention to what happened sometimes, not often, but let's say something happened. But because the way the society is and the way our parents were also conditioned to understand reality, they often couldn't give us the emotional support we needed. And obviously the emotional trauma is the one that it's kind of overlooked or dismissed, because if you weren't beaten to death or you weren't sexually abused, it means you didn't go through any trauma. So we don't see it as such, because we say, oh, like we said at the beginning, we had both parents, they worked, they loved me, and obviously our parents.
There was no physical trauma, no physical abuse.
Nothing happened, and for some reason we don't remember our childhood. So if it was good, why I don't remember? And the reason we don't remember, because we were often disconnected. We were present. We had to disconnect from the feelings, cut off from the feelings that we experienced, and there was nobody we could either communicate or share, or if we did, people didn't understand, what we are talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Or I discover in the recent work with myself, actually, that because I also work on myself, it's work in progress. So whatever life brings me, I try to look, from different sides and connect with the inner child. And I've noticed that for me, certain the way I was treated by my parents or by my mom, it was normal to me. So I could not know that I can feel sad about it, or I could not know I can experience anger behind that, because I was already disconnected, because I felt this is the way I'm supposed to be treated. For example, I don't know what was the example, but I think it was that, I remember now, it was that I was always prized or rewarded for what I did, not who I was. So my value depended on if my mom liked what I did, or she did, or when she disapproved, then my value would go obviously lower. So there is the low self-esteem where it comes from. And then I've noticed I was not even aware of that, obviously, because I was too small to be aware of anything. And I was too small to be aware that her behavior, it's not, I don't want to say not right, but was in a certain way damaging to me. I could not understand that being that young. And obviously the way I was treated was normal to me. So I did not even know that I can feel sad about it, or I'm supposed to feel anger about it. I was so already disconnected, thinking this is normal, So that also gave me the idea that, it's we were not aware of so many things that happened in our childhood, because it felt it's my parents, so it's normal. And you don't often have comparison, that different families have different dynamics, because you are in your family. So
yes, for me it's also important what you said, that we disconnect, we split, and that word is very important for me, because that's exactly what is happening to us when we experience the situation. And we have to remember that children will perceive things differently than adults. Because from an adult perception, from point of view, if you look at the child, you would say, well, there's nothing really going on here. Like, what are you, what are you crying about? Or what are you getting angry about? What are you, why are you so hysterical? But from a child point of view, we have to remember, go back to his shoes. It could be traumatic. For him, let's say, to be left alone in the preschool, or to fall from a bike, or to go to school and do a first stage performance. It could be like really something that creates inside panic. And if he has nobody to, at that moment, to get support from, to rely on, that's when the split actually happens. That's when the split happens, because trauma is not really, some people think trauma is only something like a physical experience. No, trauma is when you can't really use any of your coping mechanisms, which is fight or flight, which you can't run away from the situation, and you also cannot fight, because let's say you are in a situation when there is a person bigger than you, like you are a 5-year-old and a parent is 30. For you, that person is huge. You cannot fight back. Like, you can't really scream at your parents. I mean, I know children bring tantrums up, but this is not the same. Like, your parents can sometimes gain control quite quickly. They threaten child or they scream, and that's enough for the child to freeze in that moment. That's actually when the split is happening, in that freeze moment, when you didn't know what to do in that situation. You were just stuck in between. And what happens is, that's the moment when your psyche is splitting. Or even sometimes I heard a really good word, your soul is actually splitting.
And often also now.
I just want to say one more thing, that we can deny as adults what happened, but for me, what's the best test and what's the best mirror for me? It's my life. You can deny your thing, but your life will show you. Your life will bring you situations. How is your relationship? Good? Like, what kind of results you have at work? Because that's what surprised me. People say my childhood was okay, but then this is not working in my life, and this is really bad, and I have no relationship with my children, and my partner is actually avoiding me, and this and this and this. So can you not see this is just like a mirroring to you, that that's what you have inside, what's bringing up like chances to to do something with this.
That's one part of it. The dynamics in our relationship with others. Of course, that's a mirror.
Yes.
And the other thing is also like our physical/mental state, because we can deny, no, my childhood was perfect, nothing happened. I'm not gonna exaggerate and go to past. It's not about that. Now it's present moment. And then yet we have anxiety, we have ADHD. We have, I don't know, all kinds of fears or
depression,
or addictions of all sorts.
Chronic diseases, yes.
Exactly, physical diseases, as especially the autoimmune, if not all of them, because there are different connections. People see it from different angles. But then the body tells us, like you cannot sit still, but you cannot focus. It's
what I also notice. People jump into many different, like defense mechanism. Yeah, they overwork, they overeat.
Yes.
The alcohol shopping, many different ones. And they are clueless. Where's
the and then we
the core of that issue? Well, it's in your childhood.
Yeah, and then we treat those addictions or those patterns by treating the symptoms, so we like, okay, so I'm gonna freeze my credit cards, I'm not gonna buy things, and then we switch to smoking, and okay, I'm gonna quit smoking, and then we start eating, because we need to cover that pain that we think we don't think, because we are not aware often of it, that there is a pain that we're trying to escape from by having all this. And for example, for me was something like over analyzing, which I never knew it could be because I thought, okay, I've learned so many things, so now I can analyze from so many angles. But actually for me it was again a coping mechanism, so I didn't have to be in my body, but
it is. Understand the situation, and then you feel safe. Like, I know, I was creative.
That, and also that you're not in your body because you are in your mind all the time. That is also one of the coping mechanisms, not to be in your body. And then from the outside it seems, oh no, you are so smart because you can analyze things from all the angles, where it was actually the coping mechanism not to feel. And that's why for me all the talking therapies, they didn't work, because I went into my head to analyze even more. So I was disconnecting even more from my body, and obviously there was no results. There was only like frustration, because I didn't know what to do with all this information that they were giving me, like, oh, you have this coping mechanism and you have this and this and that, and but what am I going to do with it right now, going back to the head. Therefore the inner
another fear, what I sometimes notice is as well, and I totally understand this from what I see. It's kind of like, I think what we sometimes when we get a lot of, like you said, we have those emotions stuck, and those that we couldn't cope as when we were children. Like that's what I said, in those very stressful situations, those traumatic moments, we couldn't deal with them. And when they are replayed as in the adult life, we are that's one of the reasons I feel that people don't want to go back, because they still have that belief that I won't be able to cope with that level of emotional distress, which is kind of like you also learn to bring to how is it, like, to be more and more in the heart, let's say, those kind of like hard emotions, which is like, let's say, fear, tremendous fear or anxiety. And at the beginning it could feel like it's gonna just the same like in your childhood, it's gonna just flood you. But you are an adult now, and now you are capable to kind of like, there's a word I'm missing now, but anyway, like
to experience those feelings,
play with them, experience them in your body. Yes.
And then your body, your nervous system actually becomes more resilient.
As children, we were not able to feel them, to allow to be with them, and just
experience
them. But we can do this. We can.
too much, and second of all, nobody was with us in that experience, because sometimes we weren't aware, and sometimes when we shared, it was either dismissed or laughed.
I think our nervous systems were still developing at that time.
Yeah.
So it was our parents' job to model how to self-soothe.
Yeah.
You know, how to soothe yourself. We were meant to learn that from our caretakers.
Yeah.
And if the caretaker was emotionally stable, then he could model, like, you know, show and demonstrate
and
to
be
the
there
child
as well
how to look after yourself by being that, but, you know, by embodying that kind of posture. But not just by saying, calm down. That is just words. You show me, you model this to me. Because that's how I learn. If an adult has he's emotionally stable, has a, you know, good nervous
connected with themselves,
then the child will be calm as well.
Yeah.
Because he can feel the calmness in the caretaker, in the parent. Yes. So we still feel like, you know, we won't be able to do it for ourselves because nobody showed us how to do it. Nobody,
what they for us when they supposed to be to help us to regulate our nervous system that wasn't yet able or was overwhelmed.
And especially in the early age, you know, I'm not even mentioning that it was like it's a must when from the newborn to like very early ages.
Yeah, they say 3 years old, this is the most important physical and emotional part of when the child develops. So in those moments when we are not taught or experience the regulation of our nervous system, then what happens later is actually that it's already dysregulated, and as adults then we have to cope with all this different mechanisms that are often damaging to us, right? Because if you have coping mechanisms, they often are, you know, even if you do too much sport, it's also damaging to you because it's not the solution. It's just, again, to cover the symptoms.
What we repeat in the adult life, we do everything not to feel, basically.
Yes, totally.
And who is that author? I was reading his book. He's very, you know, he said it really, really good, that you cannot heal what you can't feel.
Yeah, totally.
By analyzing, unfortunately, it won't bring you any like really long-lasting results in life.
Totally.
Might give a short-term result like that and that's when people say, well, why doesn't it last? Well, because it needs to be embodied.
Yes, and by embodied means felt and experienced, and it doesn't even, it's not like we have to sit for 30 minutes and feel our sadness. Sometimes it's, you know, at the beginning for me it was just 10 seconds, sometimes 20, because my system was already disconnecting after 20 seconds. But which is its function. When it's too much, it disconnects. It's also good. But then we learn exactly how to regulate our nervous system and how somebody is crossing our boundaries and connect what happened, and it's okay. It's nothing wrong with that.
But it's like you said, we have to relearn that now as adults, you know, because nobody was there for us, unfortunately, or they were partly, or they did some job, but some things are still missing. So that's I don't want to say we have to do it. Like it's an opportunity we can take, you know. It's our choice now. We are adults and we can decide.
It has these two messages. One message is like, okay, everything happened in our majority of the things, they happen in our childhood when we didn't really have a choice, or we had no other option but just be there and experience that. But the positive notice is that now as an adult we can actually change, and there are techniques that are being developed for all smart people who work with trauma and other things, that they really bring lasting effects, and they really bring changes, and we can be in charge of our own life and change it this way. So it has how to say it, it's a lot of I wouldn't even say hope, because hope is that maybe something will change, because for me right now it's reality. It really happened, you know. And I tried many other modalities. they didn't work for me. I'm not saying maybe they work for other people, that's fine.
Yes.
But those who did work, which is like the somatic experiencing or the inner child work or other approaches that I now studied and also work with my clients, they are really it gives us our life back in a certain way, I would say.
Oh, it does, but much more, because like I say, what I noticed during the years, it's reconnecting with that part that she holds a lot of gifts, hidden gems, basically, that you had to, in some situations, you just had to disconnect, you had to cut off from them. And it's like you regain the access to this, locked, secret and beautiful, like a bank of abundance of talents and things like this that they were locked from you until that moment. And now when you reconnect, you're gaining them back. Like I can see that myself in my work and in my life all the time. The more I go back and reconnect with the inner child, it's like I'm saying, things are coming back to me. I notice a lot of energy that I reclaimed by doing this. A life energy, spontaneous, how is it called? Spontaneous? No, spontaneity.
Yeah, being spontaneous.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think
joy, mostly joy. I remember me as my inner child is really joyful. So.
Yeah, and it's a joy that is not induced by drugs or alcohol, which
exactly
life. And I felt really joyful when I drank alcohol in the past, because that's why I did drink it, because it always was bringing me a lot of joy. So now from the perspective, I can understand that I wanted to do that because I wanted to feel that joy, which now I don't need to drink and the joy comes. Also, what other things come on the other side, it's sadness, for example, anger. But it's not something that I'm afraid of because I know right now I can accept it, and actually experiencing the sadness and the anger helped me to access also the joy, the euphoric state, the gratitude for existence, which in the past I didn't have, so it's also that. And as you said that, yes, exactly, we didn't only get disconnect from our self and the trauma, in meaning the so-called negative emotions, but also from our gifts and our desires that we had as a child, and all this like
dreams, maybe some dreams, as well.
Dreams,
and it's kind of like bringing your life purpose back, because that's what also happens. So mostly, what I also notice, I see that with people working and on the sessions, they say like it's like going back and remembering what is their dream about, what they always wanted to do in life, but they put it aside. And life felt so just like empty. Something was missing until when they went back, and this is now something that they can have again.
You can find yourself back.
Yes.
Like what your values are, what you really want to do in life. It kind of, that direction becomes more clear. What you're interested in. It doesn't have to be necessarily a specific goal. Okay, I want to do this in life. It can be just like small things that bring you joy that didn't before, because we were so withdrawn from life. At least that was my experience. I was withdrawn because of all this coping mechanism to keep me freeze and then use, for example, alcohol to feel joy.
This is something definitely that I also noticed, to have joy from really small details in life, to see the joy in all those little things. That this is just the best thing that the inner child also holds in within.
Sorry, it's my battery.
So it's like we said in the beginning, it is not just a mental process, it's not just visualizations. It is more through reconnecting through our body, and then going back to that child. It happens basically like really spontaneously, naturally, once you go into the process. So I don't know if Dagmara, if you want to explain maybe how you're doing that, because for me it's always happening usually when something is happening in the moment in my life. And let's say I notice there is some stressful moment and or some sadness. That is when I take the moment to sit down, take some time away for myself, and that's I start always by directing very compassionate dialogue, like with empathy. I basically talk to the inner child, and that's the moment when I kind of like what's happening mostly to me. It's I either see a scene from my childhood that is bringing me back. That's where she's showing me that is where I should go back, and that's the moment for me to work on. Or I just notice some inner voice, like that is talking back to me, which is interesting. Like it's always a new adventure to connect with her.
For me, it goes the other way. I felt very similar. I feel first what is happening where in my body, and then I go back to the experience. And what is extremely beautiful when I see like what was, if I'm able to access those emotions, and then I see like, or ask the inner child even like what is needed or what was missing, and then I can go there as my adult self and give it to myself. And it's it's experience in the body, how does it feel to be held by the person that really is connected and cares about you in that moment when you're going through sadness, for example, or you've been in a situation like that was difficult. Like the situation that came to me recently, it was that, I don't remember, maybe I was 3 years old, and I was forced by my mom to do something I didn't want to, which I don't remember right now. It was only like small picture of that, and it from the outside obviously it seems like, oh, it's like 3-year-olds, they have to do that, why they don't want to, but what happened inside of me, it was so interesting to experience that I felt like I'm being forced to do something that I don't want to, that who I am, it doesn't matter, or it's not important, because nobody cares about what I want.
Needs are not important.
And if we experience that as an adult, obviously we don't want anybody to force us to do something, Therefore, it's sometimes hard, as you said before, that it's hard to see intellectually from the adult position how the child feels. You really have to connect with that experience.
That's why you're doing that.
And then I was surprised that my beliefs came from there, that that I'm not important, because obviously
I don't matter, or my needs don't matter.
Yes, because if somebody is forcing you to do something against your will, how can you feel about yourself? And then it was that, and then so this is also how our core beliefs are created, and beliefs. And then I've noticed when I went there to care for that child, it was what I experienced. It was this love, and like I was held, and it felt like, I don't think I've felt that before, like being given by my parents, not that they didn't love me, they just didn't have that capacity or the ability to be there in those moments with me in that way, and
the way you wanted to be held.
And then the way I experienced that in my body through this process was amazing, like
yes,
I can really give it to myself, and then it becomes fun actually to work with your inner child, because you can experience all range of emotions, but also this emotion that you are being held.
Yes, and it's like beautifully how you said it. I missed that part actually, that like what you said, connecting through the body sensations, which brings you back to the body. It's not the analyzing process, it's totally bodily process. It's beautiful,
Yeah. And this is more or less how we also work in the session.
Yes, exactly, because I can't describe the whole thing, but
it's very similar. So it's very, I would say very freeing. And for me, it changed a lot in my life. We'll be talking about a lot of things, but that's why we also wanted to share with you, to invite you to, just to wrap it up right now, to invite you to work with the inner child, to research about it, not only visualize, but also connect with your feelings. And the thing we didn't mention, and that's how I really actually wanted to start this video, was the case that it's not only about the process itself, it also is how you're going to show up in a real life, because if, let's say, somebody is crossing your boundaries and you do the process and you go back to the inner child and you with her and you find the roots of your anger, blah blah blah. But then, I mean, blah blah, it's important. But then you do nothing in your real life. You're not really standing up for that child. You are still passive, so nothing can change if you do not take action. But action,
empowered action, that's what is
empowered,
needed.
Come from the mature place, not the reaction that you go and, I don't know, kill everybody, but you actually find out what is the healthy response to what happened and how I want to show up in it. What is my boundary? What do I need to change or say or express or be authentic even? Maybe it won't change, but at least I'm authentic, about what's happening to me. And this is also what we got disconnected from, our authenticity, how to present yourself in the way you really feel. Because obviously if you're disconnected from your feelings, you also don't know how you feel, so you can't be authentic, or you're afraid to be authentic because you will lose your attachment or people will judge you or whatever other thing. So it's, again, not only the visualization, it's also the process, and then it's the how we show up through this process in the real life.
And you know what, that really amazed me every time, because every time I sit with her, in the end, like you said, when the action is needed, I'm coming to that moment where I'm asking myself what kind of action I can do now for myself, or what kind of, it's amazing what kind of, what things come out from me, like the ideas just come spontaneously, like just pops in. So it's also the little girl. Also sometimes she's also amazing me sometimes, because she gives me some kind of words, and she says, I want this, or I need this, and like how clear and to the point she is. Like, it's just, when I used to kind of sometimes believe, oh, maybe I wasn't really sure about what I wanted when I was young. No, she was really sure of herself. She knew what she wanted, and that kind of self, kind of like how would I say, like confidence is coming through also. It's amazing sometimes to get that in the end. Which, if I would just do if I would just sit with a problem or an issue with situation without doing the inner child, kind of like a process, then I get some ideas, but maybe they're not as deep. But which every time I sit with the inner child, I sometimes have a feeling that I get amazing inspirations, coming through me, like ideas, just like, I'm like, wow, yes, I can do this and this and this, and then so many. So like I said, the creativity and all of this, like, it gets unblocked.
Because then the decision comes from the place you really feel, not again back to your head and analyze, okay, but she's a really good person, or he's a really good person, I shouldn't have said that, or I should say something different, I should be nice to them. So then you still overanalyze in your head how you're supposed to behave, which is also based on your coping mechanism, versus like feeling, no, I mean, what this person said wasn't right, and what I want to say is to go and say that. And the way
what also surprised me, she has also really mature ideas, like if I allow her, if I ask her what she needs, it's not necessarily like that you would expect from a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old to say like that she wants to do something really silly. Usually it's really that she just wants to be heard, or she just wants to speak her mind, but the words doesn't sound silly to me, they're usually really and kind of like kind, and then that's what's coming from her. So I'm just I'm really amazed how she's showing up to me,
and
so I guess by saying that, I'm really trying to, for the people that are listening, to try to invite you to really not to be afraid of this kind of work, and to try it, at least give it a try.
Totally. And I'm also glad it came into my life.
Put aside the assumptions and just let yourself experience this kind of.
It's actually beautiful. I mean, yes,
it is.
Sometimes maybe you confront situations in the past were overwhelming to you, but working with different people, and often people had really overwhelming situations in the past, they were so glad they could work through that process because they could do something about that memory, that situation, where they couldn't do in the childhood. So it left them with this feeling of, there is nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But when you revisit that place in a of course safe and a very subtle and delicate manner, then you can say things that they weren't said, or find out what the child really needed in that moment, which we make assumptions, oh, she probably needed that, but we don't know really till we connect. And then we find out, no, she didn't. She just wanted to be understood in that situation. Even in the worst situations, people, what they really want often is to be understood, not necessarily that this didn't happen to me, like. And often Gabor, with who I'm actually honored to study right now, says that the trauma is exactly what you said before. The trauma is not the outside circumstances that happen to us.
Yeah.
It's what happened to you inside, and that you weren't able to be held or share that experience with somebody who will be holding your hand and understand you in that situation. And then when how this split happens, and but on the other hand, it's
so like we didn't have any compassionate person, any compassionate how would you say, somebody who witness, a witness.
Witness.
We need a compassionate witness, not somebody who necessarily will allow us to do anything in the situation, but just to be heard, just to tell our part of the story, how it was from our point of view. And that's sometimes all what is needed.
Yes. And what I wanted to just conclude, because also what he says often, Gabor, is that I forgot what I wanted to say. It's actually amazing that it's not about the circumstances, it's about how we felt, because if it was about the circumstances, there is nothing we can do. We cannot change the past. However, what we can work with is what happened in us, how we experience that, and how to integrate, not even heal it, but integrate that experience, and to be heard, to find the compassion, and to develop the acceptance and be witnessed again, and the pain can really be alleviated, or at least lessened, So that's the way it works. Miracles.
Yes, we can work, like you said, on our how we perceive the situation, how we felt, on our feelings, on our perception as well. This can be changed.
In many ways, it gives us the tools, the power that we can do something about things.
So we don't feel powerless. Yeah,
exactly. That's why we want to encourage you to, if you need to. And I think everybody needs.
If you need any, of course, like at the beginning, if it sounds to you too confused, then we invite you both to our sessions, and this is where you can really experience the process, because like I said, we can talk a lot about how it is, but to experience this is totally different thing. And it's also one of the I would say it's a kind of like a conditioning from our childhood, that it's good to break. It's good to show yourself now that you can reach for help, for support. This is something that we usually didn't have as children as well. There was no support, there was no help, there was no supportive person. So for me, it was this kind of feeling that when I reach out, and I went to a person that introduced me to the inner child process. I felt like I'm doing this now to myself. I'm breaking this pattern. I'm giving myself support.
Yes, and we also, through that, we're giving ourselves the importance, that I'm important, so I can pay somebody to create that space.
Yes, I felt myself like I deserve the care. I deserve, to be looked at. I deserve to be cared. So that was really, for me, it was an important step for me as well.
So first of all, we don't have to do it on our own. Obviously, later we learn how to do it. But to have that person that is there for us, it's also to experience that compassion from that witness, that this is that person who's witnessing my pain right now, not only me, and that this pain is validated, and that's how I really felt. And you have that the practitioner, therapist, coach, whoever, that is there for you for that very reason, not for the reason to change your beliefs and push you to do something, but for the reason to hold that space for you as well, so you can in that space feel how it is to feel safe, how it is to feel that somebody has compassion for what happened to you, and somebody gives you undivided attention and presence, which you also didn't get as a child, was the presence of your parents. I'm not saying physical presence, because although sometimes people didn't get that as well, but I'm talking about the emotional presence, about the parents who were connected with themselves, with their feelings, with their authenticity, with their values, and where they're able to also give that connection.
Yes, because we have people who say my parents were at home, my mother was working, like let's say she was a staying at home mom, but at the same time I didn't felt heard or seen at all, because she was too busy, she couldn't give me the attention that I needed at the time.
And again, as we said at the beginning, it's not to blame our parents, because they obviously had their parents and they have their parents, and it never ends. But because if we don't do our work on ourselves, if we don't focus on that connection of becoming the whole integrated adult, then our kids will automatically suffer that disconnection that we suffer.
Pass it on, Yes, I can say it as well. I definitely see a huge change in the way I'm connecting and relating to my son. It helped me a lot. This is also what I can say. Like, also people are looking for a way. How can I have a better relationship with my children? Well, do the inner child work. This is the best way.
It's
because your change will be straight away. Like the child will, your children will feel it and will react to it straight away. What will you create for yourself? This bond, this presence, the compassion that you will give to yourself, you will be able later to give to your children the same way.
Exactly. And you also model that to your children, that's how the life is, what the life is about. It's not about disconnection and anxiety all the time. It's also about being connected, grounded, and centered. And there was something else I wanted to say, but I forgot right now. It's not only to create better relationship with our children, obviously, which is very important. It's mainly to create better relationship with ourselves, which then project on our relationships with our partner, with our bosses, with our friends, with our children, even with our parents, because we then create that, we change.
Yes, because whatever we can give to ourselves, we stop demanding that in an unhealthy way, of course, because I'm not saying in a way when you ask for support from other people, there needs to be a balance. But I'm talking about the way we sometimes demand other people to give us things, to fill us up, to rescue us.
Yes.
So whatever you do, give for yourself, you fill your cup first, then you can, when it starts to overflow, you share with the rest.
And you don't have to depend on somebody always giving me something.
Definitely.
Because I'm not able to take care of myself.
That's the biggest,
So I think just to wrap it up, because it's supposed to be 30 minutes and now it's an hour again. It's each time we pass through the agreed time. So sorry about that. And if you want more information, you can contact us. I put Jadwiga's info below, and we invite you to look and search and read more about that work. And if you need help, we are here to also guide you and help you and support you in that journey, which is a journey worthwhile.
It is. I just want to add that I'm working in 2 languages. So I do therapy sessions also in my native language, which is Polish, but I also do sessions in English as well. So that's no problem.
Also here we are both Polish, but we decided to do it in English for our English viewers. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Really nice each time. And hopefully see you again with maybe different topic. And
thank you for inviting me, Dagmara. It was a very, very interesting chat we had. Great. As always, like you said, as always, we
amazing,
always really inspiring talks.
Yes, awesome. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.